Let's move on. Next game we're going to talk about here, looking at Voodoo. Voodoo came in and took on the Raiders. This was a battle of Fight Club cellar dwellers, unfortunately, at the time. What happened there was Raiders was finally able to put together enough points to get a win and not have somebody score so many points against them that it didn't matter. He scored 91, Voodoo scored 86, Raiders gets the win, second of the season. He's now up to 2-5. He's 72 points behind Nutbuster in overall points scored for the year for that final playoff berth. So far this year, posted 631 points. In Week 8, Raiders going to be taking on, we mentioned earlier, Big Dog at 5-2, so he's got his work cut out for him. For Raiders last week, again, if you look at his score, nothing jumps out at you. A lot of guys in the teens. It was like a cumulative team effort there. The one thing to take note of, Rashard Mendenhall, 3 points. What's Ben Roethlisberger coming back going to do for him? Is that going to help or is that going to hurt? It's kind of like, I don't know, you look at like a guy like Jay Cutler. You get these teams with these good quarterbacks and they feel like they've got to throw the ball now 30, 40 times a game. The running backs, which are, Rashard Mendenhall, very talented, multi-purpose back, featured back capabilities. Not going to maybe get those carries that he was getting when Charlie Batch was running the show. Tom Brady, you're starting to see that metamorphosis back to what Tom Brady was before Randy Moss came around, if you recall. Got the wins, got the Super Bowls, clutch quarterback. Not a guy you want to start on your fantasy team, though, because, again, he's going to spread the wealth. He's going to dink and dunk you. He's going to get in the field goal range. They're going to play good defense under Belichick, and he's going to get you 12 fantasy points. That's what he did last week, and that's what he'll probably do a lot of going forward. Those big bombs without Moss, you're probably not going to see a whole hell of a lot of that. He also had, interestingly enough, Mike Wallace. Got a Mike Wallace start there. 2 catches, 53 yards. 1 catch was a 53-yard touchdown. So played your cards right, rolled the dice, and that's what you put Mike Wallace in for. He got what he was looking for. That one big touchdown grab. He ends up getting 13 points out of maybe a surprising spot, frankly. Voodoo, again, close game, man. I don't know if you guys watched Monday night because there was so much on the line for so many games on Monday night, but Jason Witten, man. Jason Witten just, if you watch the last drive, Jason Witten has catch number 10, and I'm not talking about that 2-point conversion. That's not a catch. Whether it should be or not maybe is up for debate, but it's not. But the catch, he had the 10th catch in his hands on the last drive. Junk stats, completely junk stats. But he had it in his hands and he dropped the ball. It would have been 10 catches for just over 100 yards, and this game goes completely a different direction. And instead of being at 2-5, Voodoo sitting at 3-4 and has clearly the 6th playoff spot. Now Voodoo's at 2-5. He's 143 points out of the 6th playoff spot at this time. On the year, Voodoo's posted 560 points. He's going to be, again, we mentioned this earlier from a previous game, Week 8 taking on Nutbuster at 2-5. That's a big game, okay? We talked about how Killer Whales versus Silver Bullets is a rematch from last year's championship game. Well, Voodoo versus Nutbuster, that's a rematch from the 2008 championship game, which Nutbuster was able to secure a victory in. Interesting matchup, because not only is it that on the line, and these guys have been rivals for years now in this league, but at 2-5 and 2-5, it's a battle clearly to separate oneself from the rest of the pack for that final playoff spot, because it looks like the top 5 are sort of putting a little bit of a cushion on things. Although there's a lot of season left. Too early to tell. Moving on from that game, we're going to take a quick look at Lightning here versus Silver Bullets. That was the next highest scoring winner there was Silver Bullets. He put up 86 versus Lightning 63. Again, this was a game that came down to Monday night, albeit it was over fast. We basically were looking at, I think it was 63-59 going into Monday with Hakeem Nicks chomping at the bit, and boy, did he come out guns blazing and let it roll for the night. Those first couple of drives, he'd made it known that Silver Bullets was going to get that victory. We weren't going to have to wait till 4th and 5 like we did the previous week in the 4th quarter, where Jeff Fisher says, go ahead and run it just one more time. Just one more carry. So Chris Johnson can break that thing loose and get a victory for Silver Bullets over Nutbuster. That was week 6. Maybe you saw that. But at any rate, this week, Hakeem Nicks comes out right off the rip and scores a touchdown. Okay, pretty quick. So that game was over almost before it started for Lightning. But for Lightning, Drew Brees, He got his 23. It was ugly, okay? 4 picks, couple of touchdowns. You think about what could have been, maybe what should have been when you're playing against a team like the Cleveland Browns if you're a Drew Brees owner. And then you got to look at things like, what's not happening for Lightning right now. D'Angelo Williams. This was supposed to be a game where he was going to come out and get loose and finally show up on the scene for 2010, and boy, it didn't happen. 19 carries, so he's getting his touches, along with 4 catches. So we're talking about a guy that's up near 25 touches, 44 yards rushing, and 19 yards receiving. The yards per carrier are just pathetic right now. You mix in a fumble there, you're looking at a guy who could very, very well be losing some playing time to Jonathan Stewart in the near future here. For Silver Bullets, it was all about that Hakeem Nicks. And David Akers made up for the previous week. Instead of missing 3 field goals, he smashes 4 field goals. Looks like 2 of which were over 40 yards and pulled down some bonus points. So you get 17 out of your kicker. Hakeem Nicks goes 9 catches for $108 and a couple of touchdowns, and you're going to score 86 without much help from your friends because Chris Johnson and LaShawn McCoy decided to take the week off, which that's not something that's going to happen very frequently. Looking at next week for Silver Bullets, he's sitting at 4-3, got the number 4 seed. He's actually 735 points on the season and holds the tiebreak over Geek Masters currently for that 4th seed in the playoffs. He's the 3rd highest scoring team in our league is Silver Bullets. But he's going to need all of that going into week 8 because he's taking on the Killer Whales. Another thing that Silver Bullets can hang his hat on is he's tied for the longest winning streak in the league right at the moment at 3 wins straight. So he's got a 3-game winning streak at the moment, and he's taking on the Killer Whales in week 8. Killer Whales maybe a little bit hobbled with some injuries. Could be an opportunity for Silver Bullets to even move further toward the top of this league and maybe solidify an even better ranking here in the coming weeks. For Lightning now, he drops to 2-5, trails Nutbuster for that 6th playoff seed by 179 points. Unfortunately for Lightning, while Silver Bullets has won 3 straight, Lightning at one point was 2-2, but has now lost 3 straight games and is really starting to fall out of the race here. And in Week 8, it's not getting much easier for Lightning as he's taking on one of the other Dans in the league. They're the owner of the Geek Masters. So 4-3 Geek Masters in Week 8 for Lightning. He's going to need all the help he can get from what he's got there. Let's move on. Talking about Geek Masters versus Rattlers, and I think this is our final game to recap for the week. Geek Master battling for a playoff spot. Rattlers, Linda, right in the hunt as well. Again, Linda going into the night, and Monday night that is, had the lead by a substantial margin. Things were not looking good for Geek Masters, but if you looked at his roster, you had Eli Manning, Ahmad Bradshaw, and Miles Austin to play, so you were looking at it and thinking, probably going to get it done, but stranger things have happened. It wasn't to be this week, though. Eli Manning comes out, throws for 300, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, so he erases one of the touchdowns. But when you're talking about the difference between 4 touchdowns and 3 touchdowns, you still got 35 fantasy points. So sort of worked out okay for him. Miles Austin decided not to play. I watched him drop a couple of really disgusting wide-open throws from Romo, and then you get a rookie fullback, forgets to pick up a blitzer. Romo gets his collarbone destroyed, and now Miles Austin's season could very well follow Romo's into the toilet. Unfortunately for Geek Masters, too. Nate Kading didn't play, literally didn't play. I didn't know that either, but he took a goose egg there. I missed that announcement, too, to be quite honest with you. I turned the game on, and I see some other guy kicking for the Chargers and never knew a thing about it. So it didn't matter, though. Wasn't really a big deal. Because the biggest reason why not was that defense that Linda ran out and picked up on the free agent line just before the game there, that Denver Broncos team, and on paper, I'm telling you, it didn't look like a terrible thing to do. Denver's coming off some pretty decent games here against some top-notch AFC competition. The Raiders are coming into town. We got Jason Campbell at quarterback. Banged up Darren McFadden. Not a great offensive line. Not a great defense. Why not pick up the Broncos? Well, you know, a three-ring circus of Darren McFadden plays later, you get negative 14 points out of the Denver Broncos defense. I've never seen it before. So that pretty much destroyed her week because she still had some decent performances out of, she had to take Sam Bradford in a spot start against the Buccaneers. You're always rolling the dice when you mess with the Bucs in my mind, but 126 yards, couple of touchdowns, not terrible. That's 15 fantasy points. Noshawn Moreno all of a sudden comes out of the shadows and posts a 20 spot. So there were some good things going on. And I'm going to tell you what, too, this Vernon Davis she's got at tight end, pretty impressive right now, too, because, frankly, he's about the only thing the 49ers have on offense, it looks like, outside of Frank Gore. So 83-66, Geek Masters with the win. With the loss, Linda drops down to 2-5. Again, she's tied for that lowest record in the league right now. She's 117 points out of 6th place. She's still got the opportunity to take a playoff spot here. 117 points out of that spot right now on the tiebreaker. She scored 586 points on the season. Unfortunately for her, again, it doesn't get any easier when you got to take on a 6-1, number 1 ranked Buffalo team in Week 8. However, she beat them a couple weeks ago and could very easily do it again. She's got Matt Schaub coming off the bye week, facing off against the Colts. You can look back and see what the Houston Texans were able to do against the Colts in Week 1. Yes, it was a lot of Arian Foster, but still, they might decide to put a few more guys in the box and let Schaub destroy him over the top. So pretty good matchup there if you're a Matt Schaub owner. Geekmaster now, again, moves up to 4-3. He's solidly claimed the 5th seed in the playoff race. He's 86 points behind Silver Bullets currently for that 4th seed. And in Week 8, he's taken on a much maligned and a team that's on the ropes right now in the Lightning at 2-5. So could be an opportunity for Dan, the Geek Master, there to slide his record up to 5-3 and further distance himself from the bottom of the league. The last time that he faced off against Lightning was actually just a couple weeks ago again, and he took that game 82-76. The difference in that game was that Saints defense posted 13 points, which is kind of surprising from a Saints defense. So we'll see if that can happen again. But that's basically what we're looking at, okay? So again, I appreciate you tuning in. Those are the quick recaps for Week 7. We'll keep coming at you with recaps going forward. I appreciate you joining us here tonight, and I'll bid you adieu. But before I do, I got to click on stuff and try to figure out how to turn this off. Oh, wait, that's not it. Wouldn't that be cool though if there are that many of me floating around in your house? Okay, catch you later, guys.